I do want to say something um, relatively positive about Apple in this moment because something people don't
Please.
appreciate is that without that control of hardware, operating system, software stack, um, they would not have been able to pull off the thing that allows updates to go to any mobile phone. There was no ability for any mobile cell phone carriers to pressure, the ecosystem as it were at the time because, these updates have to go over cellular networks. Cellular networks, cost money to maintain. Cellular network providers are usually the first line of customer support defense if your phone gets bricked because of an update that came from the operating system manufacturer. So the fact that they had one well tested hardware to work with all of their updates, and two, they had such a high market share, and everybody wanted to the carriers all wanted their phone. Remember when iPhone used to be locked to one carrier when it first came
Correct.
out?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So they had the ability in that power that they had at that moment to do something no other company had been able to do. There was no ability to get updates of any kind to your phone in a regular way before Apple. So I will put that little piece in, that thank you, Apple, for letting
Yeah.
us have security updates on our phones.
No, Katie, I agree with you completely. I agree with that, and in that same exact sentiment. Like I bitch about Apple as a genuine Apple fanboy that owns almost all of their products. I own at least one of, and I'm like super excited about these things, and I shill for them all the time. I love Apple's products and stuff, and I've interviewed at Apple 5 different times and like entertained the idea. So like, like clearly like I'm not against them as a company. It's more that I am a firm believer in like, the greater your capabilities, the greater your responsibility to leverage them. Precisely when you monopolize authorities in a way that means nobody else can have them. I don't need to be the defender of Apple's ecosystem. If Apple decides that they're going to be the fucking jackbooted assholes of the iOS defense world and be like, fuck these dudes, we're gonna pursue them, in Putin-esque, rhetoric, we will find them at the outhouse, right? Like they're gonna fuck, we're gonna go just full bore nuclear on these dudes and like go full TI and actually look for the implants and actually like look for, who is working on these things and like literally go hardcore. And you go, well, shit, like there's no room to play in this. Like we actually cannot have no visibility. There's no room for us to do shit. But those dudes have this job covered. They are doing just fine. Like if that was their approach, I don't think you would get as much complaining from the TI side. I think what scares us is that we know we are not effectively playing in it. We can tell Apple is not effectively playing in it, and the only person that seems to have anything to say and like that any ability to say anything is like a small nonprofit group out of like academia. And it's fucking that's terrifying, right? Like if Bill Marsack decides that it's time to like cash in, or Ron Deibert decides to like fuck off because he's done enough, which I think is well within their rights at some point, then what happens to this? If somebody decides to stop funding this academic department, what happens to all this shit? It's like the same argument with like Bellingcat. You're like, there are too many like single points of failure for like global accountability that are not being properly funded and they're not replicated. And there's like, it's like, if this one shop, if Citizen Lab goes away, if the University of Toronto decides they fucking had it, what happens?
So you are arguing that Apple should become Spider-Man. I heard some variation of the with great power comes great responsibility. I
I
swear I heard that in
That's
there.
my corporate belief system.
Right. So is some kind of superhero arc for them. But here's the thing, it all comes down to commercial worthwhile for these companies. And it does
Yeah.
because they will get sued by their shareholders if they do anything different. I will tell you, how did I get Microsoft to be the first company to staff a vulnerability research team that looked for third-party vulnerabilities well before Google Project Zero? How did I do that? It wasn't because Microsoft wanted to be Spider-Man. It's because when your browser crashed because of an Adobe plugin, people blamed Microsoft. When I literally saw a Linux penguin on a crash screen on an airplane entertainment system, and somebody pointed to it and said, "Damn it, Microsoft." And I'm like, you don't, that's a penguin. So they were getting blamed for everything because they had huge market share and everything. So how did I ride that angst, that commercial angst, to letting them actually do something more positive for the ecosystem as a whole? I basically said, you're getting blamed anyway. You might as well clean up the
Right.
ecosystem and then you'll get blamed less. And they were like, yeah, that's a pretty okay, yeah,
Yeah.
sure. You can do Microsoft vulnerability research, do it. So that is how you get them to give a fuck
Yeah.
about about opening up and doing more of this work and not having it rely on a third party citizen lab kind of situation. Is it has to become commercially untenable for them to continue to hold the position that they do.